Wait, why am I not here?
I lost the game.
Hello, everyone. Welcome, one and all. I'm not here for some reason. Give me one moment.
Are you the purple Discord icon? Oh no, that's music bot. I love how you.
That's the music bot now. Yeah, no. You unfortunately, due to the way how the setup is, there we go. Okay, there we go. Well, welcome everyone. It is I, Lita Barnett, the Superstar VTuber, and today I'm joined by everyone. Introduce yourself. Hello?
Fine. Hi, I'm Rika. Rika Readman. Gay elf extraordinaire. What's up? Someone else go. Winter go.
Hi,
Winter,
I'm
go.
Winter. I'm here to cause problems on accident and on purpose.
All right, Leche.
Howdy, it's Leche. It's here to be here.
Leche is here.
I'm Vampy.
Oh, okay. You are
And
back.
Vampy here. And today we're playing Fabula Ultima, a game that's supposed to mimic Final Fantasy RPG games, but but it is us. We are the chosen ones, maybe, possibly. Don't know.
Isn't that Final Fantasy? You play the Chosen Ones?
Not all the time.
I need
Not
to
all
make your
time.
blue sky post so I can retweet it.
Let me
I
make
mean,
a
in
blue
Final
sky
Fantasy
post so I
11,
can
I
repost
think-
it.
I think Final
Okay.
Fantasy 11 is interesting in the fact that they don't make you the chosen one.
Okay, but Final
then-
Fantasy 11 also ended with literally the world ending.
Did it? We're talking about the first MMO game.
Yeah.
That was Final Fantasy 14.
No,
Are
that's
you getting 14 and 11 mixed up?
I'm thinking of 14's first run. Sorry, my fault. Yeah, my fault.
Yeah.
My fault.
No,
I'm
in
thinking
11,
of, 1.0.
the NPCs are usually the chosen one. I don't know. It's an interesting story decision that you play the wingman to the chosen NPCs.
Actually, that's kind of sick.
Yeah.
I can't believe people complained about Wook Lamont being the main character of Dawn Trail. When Final
Because
Fantasy
she's
11
woke. Woke Lamont, more like.
I've got problems.
Listen, I have problems with Wook Lamont, but they are very minor and not worth complaining about. I don't know what's wrong with it. Actually, I know exactly what's wrong with it. Anyway, distractions. Hello, continue your blurb.
Anyways, yeah, so this is my first time running a game and also streaming a game, so this will be interesting. I don't know how terrible and or good this will be.
Haven't you streamed these before?
Nope.
Tabletop stuff?
Nope. I've run tabletop sessions before, but that's usually with a module book, so this is me making up shit on the fly.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yay.
You love to see it.
You love to see it.
Alright, let me swap over to the game and make sure that y'all are viewable in there.
We could also talk about our history here if we wanted, but like, I am new to tabletop.
Sure.
I've only ever played Pathfinder, which I like because it makes me think of Fire Emblem and Advance Wars gameplay, but Fabula Ultima is a very different system, so I'm very interested in seeing how it plays out.
It is very different.
It might also sour me on, like, Pathfinder forever, so that'll be really funny.
What do you mean?
That would
What's
be
that even supposed to
incredibly
mean?
Literally, every tabletop nerd, which is just two women in my life right now, one of which is Winter, the other someone else, are just constantly like sound very audibly disappointed when they're like, "Oh, you play Pathfinder."
I do not
And then-
have fond feelings for D&D and games that are based on D&D.
And then
Really?
immediately talk to me about other systems. So, you know, and interested.
Y'all talking shit about Pathfinder? I always heard that system's created as the quote unquote better D&D, as it were.
Sound like a Saga fan.
It's like It's fine. I don't think it is a bad game, but I don't like D&D. And I don't particularly want to play not quite D&D.
D&D
Is
like,
my
but fixed.
particular thing about it.
I only played the Pathfinder video games, and they were confusing as fuck to me.
It's like, you know, you play an anime fighter, but it's like, I don't want to play an anime fighter. Well, you can play Under Night. It's like an anime fighter, but, you know, a little more grounded, like Street Fighter. It's like anime Street Fighter, but I don't want to play an anime fighter. Like that feeling, you know?
Oh.
I want to play Tekken.
Huh. Why ain't that coming through?
You didn't. Never mind. We're not making those jokes on Liddy stream.
Oh,
All right, let me try something else. There should be music coming in
Also
through
chat.
stream right now. It ain't working for some reason.
I've never played a tabletop RPG, but I have played Baldur's Gate 4 times.
That's
Okay.
close enough.
Yeah.
That's all you really need.
I have been playing tabletop RPGs since I was like 15.
What do you know?
I have played in multiple campaigns for the podcast Role Playing Public Radio.
Ooh.
Nice.
And otherwise, I've just played a lot of games. I used to run a lot of games, but I have lost all of my confidence.
Now, why is that being like that?
Role-playing public radio. Time to look it up.
That ain't real.
No, that's real. 157
Actual
pages.
play roleplayingpublicradio.com.
Vogue.
Wait, I'm not gonna like find your dead name or anything if I look this up, am I?
No, I started playing in these campaigns after I transitioned.
Oh, okay.
You gotta search for Lydia. It's in the tags in the bottom right there.
I'll look it up after this.
Okay.
Lydia's a cute ass name.
Lydia, it's lit.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's lit.
It lit.
All
right.
Am I allowed to post links in chat?
Sure. Go ahead. Post the links in chat. Plug your pluggables.
Am I allowed
If
to
you want to see
post
games I played
chat?
in, that's the place to look.
We're opening an external link. Are you sure?
Drow and Draco Liches. Oh, this is really recent.
All right. I have a deafen for me, and I can't figure out how to undeafen the music bot. Because I thought I could just like.
Are you sure you don't have it server deafened?
Poker.
it's
You can
deafened
all
for me as
hear
well.
music, right?
No.
No.
Not anymore.
I thought
Oh,
I
now I hear it. Now I hear
I
it.
can hear
Oh.
music in the background.
Yeah. I'm trying to get that on stream, but it ain't working for some reason.
She might be too quiet.
Mhm.
No, it is literally not pulling up anything.
Oh.
This is
I see it.
wild.
I see it deafened on your little Discord thingy.
Yeah, I don't know how to undeafen it. I think that's an intentional thing. Make sure that I don't hear it twice.
I'll intentionally deafen
That'd
you.
make sense.
Smacks your ear.
I don't want to capture audio desktop because then people hear me twice, and I don't like that.
Wait, why would they hear you twice?
Because I hear myself when I
because of your
talk.
feedback.
Yes.
I forgot people do that.
Yes, people do that sometimes.
I can see that being useful, especially if you have like closed back headphone.
Mm-hmm.
I love open back. Never mind.
I used to do that. I don't know why I stopped.
I stopped wearing closed back headphones because people kept sneaking up on me.
Actually, can people hear music on stream? Because I see the Discord thing firing off.
Yes, the music is coming through on stream.
Oh, thank
Music
God.
is coming
Okay.
through on stream.
Okay. Okay, so it's picking up off the Discord thing. Okay. Okay, we should be good. Okay, so we were talking about histories of pen and paper RPG. I run 2 Lancer games. That's about it. I played half a campaign, and that's about it. Okay, so brief overview of the world and where we're popping into. Welcome to the world of Terra. It is a world that's made up between 2 major kingdoms. The Republic of Svalbard, the Briar of... What was it again? Sorry.
It's the Principality of Briar. I did send you
Principality of
another
Briar.
updated map.
Did you?
You can worry about that later.
Okay. Principality of Briar, yes. The Kingdom of Kiran, the Crescent Isles, and the Sky... I don't know how to pronounce that. Leche.
Sciatica?
Sciatica.
Sorry, I'm assuming.
Yeah, Saga, yeah.
And then the desert in between. So, we are joined by our intrepid... You don't see that on the side. People who are in the call, do not look at my screen because you're going to see a bunch of GM stuff on the side.
I misread that.
It's fine. You're far enough away. I can't read any of it.
I
Okay,
got my
good.
glasses on, so you're good.
Leche, is it Gaelic, right?
Yeah, it's supposed to be like Gaelic.
Are you Irish?
State, state.
We're joined by our intrepid protagonists. Do you want to give a brief introduction of your characters?
Do we want to give an introduction of our characters?
If not, we can just jump into the game.
It probably would not hurt to do this. Who wants to go first? Because I don't.
I introduce myself first. I'm making one of you. I'll do it.
Obviously, that means you go first. And
Oh
then
my
I got second,
fucking
and then
God.
whoever else goes.
Rika, go.
Alright. Oh my fucking god. Alright. Hello. Yeah, that's my character. How the fuck do you even introduce your character? Like, how much information are we giving here in our introduction is the question.
30-second
You
elevator
can say
pitch,
your
go.
character's name, basic overview of their backstory, and what classes you have.
Okay, well, alright, this is Lord Salvador. They are so they're from the Republic of Silvarde. It's an experimental, so the Republic of Silvarde is, of course, a nation with the military academy on it. The nation is very centered around the academy. They do research into scientific stuff, you know, researching magic, integration into science, etc. Lore is the result of trying to integrate a new technology into, like, cybernetics, androids, whatever, creating these kind of like robotics, android type things for war and or other things. Except it was really good, and they developed personalities, and Floor's creator felt very regretful and said, you're a little too real. Go do better things with this life that we have given you. And now Floor is escaped and is on an adventure to fulfill their creator's wishes to improve the world somewhat, but very significantly. And Floor plays the role of probably a melee frontliner, has Weapon Master, Guardian, and Elementalist. You know, very designed for combat, as one does when creating machines for war. I'm
All
pretty
right.
sure that's what the
Who's
roles
next?
I'm playing Milia Amaranth, she, her. She is the daughter, well, she's ostensibly the daughter of a minor noble. Jesus Christ, why did that happen?
Hmm?
Hang on.
Something wrong?
I accidentally super minimized the character window I have up. She is ostensibly the daughter of Lady Amelia Amaranth, the royal cartographer of the Kingdom of Kiran, and Viscount Ilya Amaranth, who is a minor nobleman. In actuality, she is the daughter of Lady Amelia Amaranth and the Demon Queen. She is not aware of this, though her father is. She is currently fleeing an arranged marriage, and that is why she has joined this party.
Okay. Next. Who's up?
I can be next.
Okay.
Let me know when you got. Okay, she's up. This is Salem. She is from the Crescent Isles, and she would she's a solitary person, and people would come to her cabin and ask for fortune readings. I forget all the terms. But she was conniving, and she would sacrifice some people for greater knowledge of magic, and then she got tricked by the person she was sacrificing to, and then died. But she was not able to fully immerse her soul into the soul stream. She came back as an undead, and she has dark skin with like a green tint on it, and she joins the party for redemption with her new perspective on life.
Okay. Fabula, please save.
Now.
All right.
Oh, right, I
Leche.
forgot my classes. I'm playing Commander, Loremaster, and Spiritist, so I'm like a backline support character.
All right, Leche. What you got?
Yeah, I'm ready. Alright, so I'm playing Rhea and I. They woke up in some desert ruins with no memories of who they are, but they were surrounded by skeletons with evidence that they might have killed them at some point, but the entire place is just ancient. They were augmented as part of an ancient super soldier program for like exceptional marksmanship, and as far as they know, they might be the last of their kind, but that might not be the case. So as they made their way out of the ruins, they saw skeletons of just whoever came there and died, whoever tried exploring the place, and like they just didn't want to do whatever it was they were made to do. And they almost died in the desert, but they almost died of dehydration in the desert until the how do you pronounce this again? The Amargane tribe, one of the desert nomad tribes of the area, came across them and took them in. And so they lived for the tribe for a few years, but were mostly alienated, pretty much only under the protection of the elder, who kind of served as their father figure. And in turn, Rhea and I helped by tinkering on their weapons and transports until they decided to like expand their knowledge. And so they headed to Volcaren, the the capital of Sigaith Day, because they found from a merchant that they could find just like they could expand their knowledge of technology greatly from there. So they trained there, recreated some ancient technology that was buried in their memory, and like once they decided they learned all they could, they started wandering the south, mostly the desert, but they made their way to their principality of Briar, since it was kind of bad over there. And from there, they heard word of the Chosen One, made their way to that group, and just decided this was be the best way that they could help people.
Okay, so this brings up the next question. Do you all want to start knowing each other or meet up in the first session?
That's a real good question.
Are you asking if we want to have previous relationships with these characters?
Mm-hmm. It doesn't have to be like super previous, or if you want to start pre-made, how did you all meet? Or I can throw you into a scenario where you all meet.
Like
I know I
second
talked
one.
about Rika about having known her character beforehand.
We could do small groups or whichever works.
I feel like, well, I'm of the opinion, this is just me, 1 out of 4. I'm of the opinion it's probably easier if we go with some, how do you say? If we just start with just into knowing each other a bit, I guess. Because I think it's probably difficult to come up with a scenario where the scenario how we all run into each other, but also that's just my opinion. I
can
want
do
to
it.
know what everyone else thinks. I want to know
would
what the
agree with
others think.
this.
Yeah, it's fun starting kind of knowing each other.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, let's start with knowing each other. How did you all meet?
Good question. That's why I wanted to start knowing each other, because I didn't want to answer that.
Grinder.
If you do not have an opinion,
Right.
I will say.
So I know how I met Floor, which
Okay,
is
how did you meet Floor?
when they were escaping the labs at the Eastern Academy. I was at that time being recalled home so that my father could ship me off to an arranged marriage.
Mm-hmm.
And so, as we met during their escape, I helped smuggle them out of the country.
Okay. And that.
Yeah.
On that note, how about Rienai and Salem? You both joined their traveling caravan as they are escaping from Spellbard. Does that sound good?
Yeah, that sounds fine.
All right. Having taken paid handsomely to smuggle their way across the ship, you arrive here. There should be a town here. I will mark that later. How do I draw? Can I just draw?
Real. Holy shit. I don't know how to draw neither.
I know there's
Yeah.
a button in there somewhere.
Yeah. You arrive on the peninsula into the town of Zawwood. Visible? Yes. Yes. It's a medium-sized seaport town. As you pull into the harbor, the four of you have passing familiarity beyond just knowing names. The Floor and Amelia have been kind of keeping to themselves. Salem and Renai also dealing with their own stuff. What have you guys been doing on the ship, on the journey?
What have we been doing?
What kind of ship is it?
It is a cargo ship that you paid cargo / merchant ship due to not great accommodations. You're basically thrown into a bare rooms that's like, you know, just for its economy class, the equivalent economy class for boats.
I'm imagining the beginning of Morrowind.
I think what Laura is doing is just kind of looking at whatever maps, books, atlases. Whatever those books, the books that are maps, and just kind of learning about the layout of everything that's outside of Silvarde and trying to figure out where we're going and where to go from here.
Given that my mother was a cartographer, I can probably help with that.
My character will be meditating, trying to speak to the dead or something. Like trying to be partially with them.
Does your character do so in secret or openly?
Openly.
Openly. Okay. The other passengers on the ship are wary of you as... Thank you so much for the gift sub. Thank you, Rika. Anyways,
fuck you, ass. I had to do it.
the other passengers on the ship are wary of Salem as one, mages are scary, and two, necromancers are double scary. All right, Leche, what does your character do on the journey over?
Rhea and I would have been kind of low on funds, so they're kind of helping, like, with any random repairs that the ship may need, and like kind of compensation for their fare.
Okay. In that case, you leave a somewhat positive impression on the rest of the sailors, as any help is always good, and it kind of underpaid you.
Love being underpaid.
And that, in that sense, I almost forgot. Everyone roll for their starting Zenith wallet.
Oh yeah. Which dice do we roll for that?
You roll a...
God, I think it's like a
What's the hot
D10 times 5 or something.
D10 times 5. Oops.
Zenith starting
times
before
10.
character creation group.
I do not remember.
2d6 times 2d6 times 10.
2d6.
Woohoo! For rolling, you type that into chat.
Oh,
Okay, Rika, you have a starting of 600 Zenith.
Without the quotation marks.
So you said D6?
2d6.
2d6.
Okay, I'm gonna go now.
6 times 10 is 60.
Hey.
Wait, was it? Did you say 2d6 or 10d6?
2d6. Oh yeah, times 10. Sorry, it's 60. It's 60, not 600.
So I have 600?
No.
You're supposed to roll 2d6.
Oh,
right?
my
rolled second
fault.
D6.
2d6.
Yay!
50 for Vampy.
You rolled lower on 2d6 than a 1d6. That's unfortunate.
Whoa, not 2d6.
When I did this while I was making my character, I got 50,
Okay.
plus the additional 1,000 that I get from my background.
Oh my god.
Winter is just rolling in dull.
Leche, you can right click that, and I think you can hit a unprivate that.
Oh, was that private?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
private. I can't see it. I didn't know you can roll privately that even the GM can't see.
Yeah, there's blind GM roll, private GM roll.
Oh, okay. I see now.
Yeah, those 4 icons just have the world one. Or you just reroll it. I don't know. Well, I don't know what you got.
That's a 1d6. You need to type in 2d6.
I did it too.
Foundry.
There we go.
Sponge.
4.
Oh my god. That's you said you were underpaid.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Leche, you are officially the poorest person in the group. Congratulations. All right. So now that you have disembarked, you notice that the air in the city is a little tense. But besides that, there's still the regular in and outs of commerce. The city is about medium size. As mentioned, is located on the peninsula on the principality side for now. But the people around are a little less friendly, a little more hurried to go around to and fro from their places. What is your first thing? What do you want to do?
How long do we plan on staying here?
Up to you.
Directed at everyone else.
Don't know. Depends on what there is to do here, I guess.
Yeah.
Depends on what we find here.
All right. Well, at the very least, I would very much like to have a bath. So let us head to the inn.
But the water's right there.
She will start walking towards the inn.
All right. Do you? All right. So arriving at the inn. Let me get a quick name.
The inn. The inn.
You arrive at a place called the Crowded Cloth, which is a tavern / inn. You arrive during the lunch hour, so things are kind of busy. You see people going to and fro, or waitresses and waiters serving to and fro. Concerningly, you see heavily armed soldiers. Does someone want to give me a perception, or kind of a perception check? I don't know what the perception roll here is.
I am good at study. So
Yeah.
I get a bonus to it.
Oh yeah.
Like insight or something, right?
It's
It's
insight
2
plus
rolls.
insight, and I get a +1 bonus to it. And
Lois?
where is my character sheet? I keep closing it for
Real
some
bad at
reason.
that, so.
I wish you could put my character sheet on the
Actions,
second line.
study.
How do you bring up your character sheet? Is there a hotkey for it?
Don't think there is. I can try adding that as a macro later.
If you.
Okay.
No, that's just the
That
avatar.
is a 12.
Good. You identify that there are both Principality of Briarwood and also Svelvard soldiers in the inn, shooting death glares at each other while drinking and eating. It is unusual to see both groups in the same building.
Well, I'm sure that's fine.
Yeah.
They know my business.
You're gonna see Floor just gonna put up a hood over the head and just kind of unassuming creature.
Unassuming creature.
I just try to stay
Being
out of their eyes,
a-
sorry.
Somewhat naive noblewoman. I will simply walk up to someone who looks like they are manning some sort of desk and say somewhat loudly, "Excuse me, I require a room for myself and my retainers."
The woman at the desk, in her A young woman at the desk looks up, bleary-eyed, as it seems like she's been on the shift for way too long. Looks at you and your group. Full, unless you want to sleep in the stables.
Can't say I could abide by that insult. Is there another inn in town?
She says, yeah, if you want to try your luck at the Drowned Rat. It's got a name for its reason, though.
How about a bathhouse?
There's always the ocean.
Floor perks up. Told you.
I'll step away from the counter and say, I'd always heard this land was a bit uncivilized. Start walking away.
Yeah. We're just gonna quickly now follow along. Yeah, just take the lead. Get out of here.
But the woman at the counter before lets you go, she says, wait. I can make arrangements for you if you do me a favor.
What's the favor?
Look, the way things are around the town, I'm up to my gills, and literally she points at the gills on her neck. I'm up to my gills with trouble right now. I don't need these two knuckleheads, she points at the two soldier groups, starting anything anytime soon. You all look competent enough. Look, I just need someone to stand around looking tough for a while, and if you do that, I'll let you stay in the staff quarters for a discount. How about that?
I'll turn to the rest of the group.
You can scare him.
Can we look scary?
Alright, that seems agreeable.
I have points.
Thank God. I don't know what's gonna. If I lose an hour plate to the brawl, I'm gonna be in the red so much this week. Who imagined that this stupid parlay is going so. I really hope this parlay is gonna end soon.
What's
All right.
I can't imagine it's been easy for you. Pleasure doing business, and I'll extend my hand to shake hers.
Yep. Boss and Amelia at your service, all that jazz. And y'all are.
Lady Amelia Amaranth, and she will curtsy.
I'll look at them. I'll be quiet.
Okay.
Floor just looks up and nods. I'm Floor.
And I am Rianai, and I'll just do a polite little bow. It was a pleasure to meet you all.
Okay. She hands you a key, and we'll only be charging you guys 10 zenith a day.
One each?
Total.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I will pay this.
Okay, so lodging established. What do y'all want to do?
Where?
I'm assuming
You
we
can hang out. The 10 zen a day will come with 3 meals a day, lodging, and access to a bathhouse. Lazana kind of looks at Salem and scrunches, emphasizing the word bathhouse.
Salem maps.
All right, now what?
I think we should deal with Mo and Larry.
You should deal with what?
The two guards. I said that because that's 2 of the 3 Stooges.
All right. Well, the two guards in
Hang on,
question.
this is Final Fantasy. It's obviously
Oh, it's
Wedge
fucking
and
Biggs and Wedge.
It's Biggs and Wedge, yeah.
Oh my god. How dare. Yeah, what's the plan here? How do we approach them? We're just gonna saunter up to them and strike up a conversation? Floor says, kind of looking at the other's shifty hide.
Well, obviously, Bozana has hired you to stop any fights from forming. Depending on how well you do your job, her opinion of you might go up or down. The two guards in question are a Readman from the Principality of Briar. He is on the smaller stature. He is shooting death glares at his counterpart from the other side of the tavern, who is dressed in the standard Svalbard guard uniform. A human woman who is also shooting glares at the Readman. Who do you want to approach? Or do you just want to watch them and see what happens?
So I know that the Principality is not particularly fond of Demonkin. What about Selvard?
Sorry, say that again. Not particularly far.
So I know the Principality is not particularly fond of Demonkin. What
Yes.
is the general opinion of Selvard?
Negative, but not as bad as the Principality, since they did not suffer nearly as poorly under the Demonkin's last rule.
Okay. I would like to approach the guard from Selvard. I do not know what everyone else would like to do.
I think that's a good idea. Well, I think we should watch him for a little bit. I think that's a good idea too.
Yeah, just gonna watch from distance.
Okay.
Yeah, I think Floor would also be okay just observing for a little bit, maybe just for like a few minutes to see if they can pick up what exactly is the source of the beef here.
Source of the beef.
Yeah.
How do I show a clock on here? I can add a clock to your party, but I don't want to. I want to like pull it up on screen because it's not as an actor.
Nice clock.
I mean, I could just hold it up on stream just to see.
Yeah, hold up
So-
your clock on stream.
Yep. Everyone can see my clock
So
now.
there is a module that lets you use them as actors. I don't know if
have it
that's the
installed.
module you have though. Yep. Right. Well, I'll send you that for later.
Okay. All right. So, hostility clock filled starts off at half full.
Okay.
All right, so you approach the spell guard woman. She shoots you a look as well, barely before keeping her eyes trained on the principality soldier. What do you want?
Well, honestly, I was wondering if you'd like a drink. And she'll sit down.
Chat, is this Yuri?
This might be Yuri.
The woman's on the young side-ish for a soldier, but she still has a mug of beer that's barely been touched. Still working on my first one. What would I need with a second on drunk? cup.
You say she's on her second cup?
No, she's still on her first.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Well, I'm certain it could help you relax.
Whoa.
Let me think.
Roll for willpower, persuasion check.
No one can relax while that oversized mange is still in here. You can hear briefly from the other side, I heard that, you stupid two legs.
Oh, don't worry. My companion's gonna take care of him if he does anything. I said this quiet enough that he theoretically shouldn't hear me.
Okay. Well, someone's gotta keep the peace around here. You never know when those principality curs will stab us in the back.
Well, I can't say I'm particularly fond of them either. She'll kind of look vaguely upwards in the direction of her own horns. What exactly is the situation in this town? We've just arrived today.
Terrible
Basically,
time
I'm just
to
trying to
arrive.
distract her.
Okay.
Get her thinking about things other than fighting this man.
You just arrived, eh? Huh.
Mm-hmm.
Picked a terrible time to arrive. Right now, what I call this place? Zlywood, yeah. We're stationed here to make sure the principality doesn't take over or doesn't establish a base out here. But and if we're trying to buy out this town, make sure that expand our reach. But obviously, those barbarians over there don't believe in peaceful negotiations, and they're here to make sure that we don't do anything that our righteous cause isn't interrupted by them. She says, while emphasizing the word barbarian. Barbarians!
That makes sense. Yep.
Barbarous.
She is still a soldier after all.
You see the fur on the rat man kind of stand up, by the way.
Yep. I can't imagine he's pleased to be called that. What to do next? What's everyone else doing while I'm talking?
I'm watching them talk and I'm clenching my staff. Love Rika.
I think Flora is watching this and seeing the rat guy get like more and more incensed. Flora is just kind of gonna like approach, lower their hood and approach Mr. Ratman, and just to be like, so, what about what's your side of this? Like, what's going on with you guys over here? What's the principality's business here?
I heard you to keep the peace, eh? Should be our job. We're the law around here. These interlopers come into our world and start talking about things like contracts and what's that word for taking over, like a protectorate, but not exactly a protectorate?
Annexation?
Not annexation. There's a fancy word for it.
Extortion?
Basically, yes, but also no.
I'm at a loss here, honestly.
I feel like it would be in character for the rat guy to not know the word.
Yeah, well, they're trying to extort the place with trying to lock this mayor in, bribe her. Stupid woman.
Stupid women. Damn.
We are the rightful rulers of this place, and we have been here. This town has been ours for generations.
It kind of sounds like an invading force. Maybe?
Yeah, does it not? And yet, when we rolled up, they accused us of being aggressors.
Well, I mean, you guys, your group has just lived here for, you said, generations, right?
I was born and raised into this town, and now they say that we're the troublemakers?
I understand that. I think it completely makes sense that. Yeah, they do seem like, as you said, interlopers. I think I completely agree with you. Flora says, you know, kind of not very good at acting, but also kind of banking that this guy is just mad enough to not notice that they're kind of appealing to him being really pissed off.
Give me a roll for that. Insight, and I'll give you a choice if you can justify it.
Say Fleur is just like talking with the hands right now, just kind of like one hand pointed at what's her name? Just the Silvarde guard lady.
You actually don't know her name.
Scrunched up. Yeah, one hand scrunched up at Silvarde guard lady, kind of like limp and like derogatory. One hand kind of like beckoning, you know, warm, welcoming towards rat guy. You know, just like little hand puppet motions. Talking with your hands. You know how people talk with their hands.
Talking with your hands. Yeah, trying to, you know, dramatic motions. Okay, give me a dex.
Dramatic motions. All right.
Inside and dex.
How do I roll these? Is it shift click for initiative check? No.
No.
Attribute check.
Attribute. Yep.
Dex?
And then you click the 2.
And what was it? Insight.
Yeah, insight and dexterity.
Dexterity. All right.
He does not believe you. And can tell that.
Right. So
Stop patronizing me.
an important thing that you can do here is if you wanted, you could spend a Fabula point to re-roll one or both of those dice.
Damn, that's a 10? Oh wait, they add up. I have to roll a 9. You know what? We'll just take it. I think it's really funny. I think it's really funny if we just... This is a very deliberate character flaw that Fleur is not good at talking to people.
Stop patronizing me. I can tell you think I'm a simpleton as well.
No, nothing of that. I'm just, you know, where our group is new here. I'm trying to see it. I'm trying to understand where you're coming from, and I just.
He looks closer at you. Wait a minute. Why do you have a Spellvard clothes? And he backs up. Are you trying to assassinate? Is this a ambush?
No. It's just coincidence. I happen to be a citizen, but an ex-citizen. For reasons you are very clearly seeing here, they do not treat people very well in Salvard. So please trust me when I say I understand your displeasure. Kind of flailing now. Flailing, very obviously flustered, looking back at the other two at the bar, just kind of like, oh.
Does anyone want to give Rika some backup before this turns into a brawl?
I'll give him backup.
Okay.
I'm not sure how. Can I stand behind the floor and be scary?
You can try. You can try to be intimidating. Yeah.
I want to do that. I want to do that.
Rihanna is just gonna give them a thumbs up because they aren't very good with these kind of situations either.
What would you like me to roll?
Justify it. Give me a reason. Pick 2 attributes or one of each, or one single one. Have you been doing anything, or have you just been like brooding in the corner?
I've been brooding because I'm edgy and cool like that.
Edgy and cool. All right. So, what do you do to back up? Do you literally just stand behind the floor, or do you say something?
I stand behind. I stand behind the floor and I glow my eyes green at the Readman.
Give me a willpower and insight then.
I gotta do that. How do I do that?
Attribute roll on your character.
On my character sheet, right?
Yep.
Attribute roll. I'm very sorry. This interfaces. Would it be? I can't find it.
Do you see?
Oh, I see it. The brown dice.
Yeah.
Okay. Attribute. And you said insight and what?
Insight and willpower.
Good. Okay. How do I... Hold on. I'm sorry. I'm trying to. Oh, insight and willpower. What is the difficulty?
Make it normal.
Yeah,
Okay.
just whatever the
these
default
buttons.
is.
Got it.
Yep.
Thank you. Shoot.
Hey, pass.
Yay. Woo. Oh, the fucking 0. What
No,
that's
the 0 is a 10. 0 is a 10.
So a 0 is a
That's a good
10.
thing.
Oh, it's like
Yes.
poker
Yeah.
or blackjack.
The Ren and sits down. He's like, muscle, mercenary muscles, and grumbles, but starts eating his food and drink while a bit cowed, but like still adversarial towards the other one, towards the Svalbard woman. All right.
So I've been sitting here trying to like be amicable and distract her a little bit. And I think after a little bit of that, I'm gonna be like, hey, what do you say we get out of here and find something more fun to do? You can see my companions have him handled.
I can kind of see that. And what do you have in mind?
I am going to spend a Fabula point to declare that I saw a flyer for a theater
Okay.
on the way in here. And I will just say something like, well, I saw there's a lovely theater. That's not the right button. Where the fuck's the Fabula point button? There's the Fabula point button. Can roll for this if you'd like.
No. I'll give it to you since you're spending a Fabula point.
Oh, not for the theater, for convincing her to come to the theater with me.
Oh, right. Sure. Making an easy roll. Her name, by the way, is Briggs.
Biggs. Ah, yes, my name's Milia. It's a pleasure to meet you. Let's see. Insight, willpower, difficulty 10, no modifier. That is a 15.
Yeah. She agrees. Is like, anything to do in this backwater village town. Okay. You successfully disarmed the fight from happening. Results, Briggs is now a somewhat amicable NPC. Bosna is happy with the results so far. And the other Ratman, which you have not learned his name of, has left the building with a small curse under his breath.
Dang.
They were both only sticking around because the other one was here.
Yeah, no, basically. They're literally doing like a small Cold War at the tavern.
God.
Easy.
Yeah, we.
Easy.
Okay. I think that is the end of a scene. So what do you all want to do? Winter's character is going to go to the theater. What does everyone else want to do?
Did all their lackeys all leave with them?
Yeah.
Okay. Flora's just gonna take a seat and just chill out for a sec and calm down. It was stressful. Someone else take the lead.
After helping Flo, I choose to sit next to them.
Okay, so two of you are resting. Lech?
Yeah, Rhina is just gonna inquire around about any like handiwork that's needed, any little odd jobs or whatever.
Okay. Give me one moment. So let's see. Give me a brief moment to think of some stuff.
Sure, yeah.
Been a bit over an hour. We could take a break to let everyone use the restroom, do anything they have to do for like 5 minutes.
I think that's a good idea. So I'm gonna run a small. We'll do a quick BRB, and then when we get back, I'll have some stuff. So let's say 10 minutes. Okay.
Okay, yeah, that's
Fantastic.
Yay.
Okay. So BRB, everyone. We'll be back in about 10 minutes. Bye.
Okay.
Be right back.
For every pony. Heaven Hotel finished season 2. They just announced season 5. So that's how that's going.
Damn.
Wait, so what's the difference between Hasbin Hotel and
It's
Boss?
the
Also,
same
hi
setup.
everyone.
It's like Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad, but for gay people.
Okay. Wait, is Better Call Saul not for gay people?
Yeah, you're right. That was a poor word choice on my part. It is gay, but you know what I'm saying. It's like the same race.
I love Gustavo Fring.
He's pretty cool. I needed to watch that show. I haven't gone past
Yeah.
like the first season.
I forgot to
Yeah.
hit the ad break before during the
Oh
BRB.
my
Whoops,
God.
everyone. All right, I'm gonna hit it now because I am still doing some talking and thinking.
Unwinding.
But what? Okay, so okay, so Winter's character is going to the theater. Leche is looking around for stuff to do job-wise. Leche, you find a flyer while on the street. Rihanna sees help wanted, extras for stage play.
Oh.
Rihanna is not gonna put the pieces together, but that sounds like something they can do.
Pays 200 zenith for a job well done. Multiple people can apply. Hint.
Any money is good money. They're gonna.
You should go drag everyone to do this. It's gonna be great.
Yes.
Yeah, they're gonna go back in the inn, slap the flyer like in front of the other two, like, hey, we should do this.
Floor looks, sees, pays 200 for a job well done. Well, I'm not sure what the metric for that is, but money would be nice to have. Yes.
Okay.
Salem, what do you think?
I think they're good. I think since good job is such a relative term, they might scam us, give us nothing, but we should do it anyway.
Sounds like we're in.
We're in hacker voice.
I mean,
Okay. In that case.
it's so cute.
ETA tour.
I love
I'm triggering some Genshin players in chat right now, but that's your fault for playing Genshin.
What?
this. Yeah, I was gonna say, like,
Stage.
I think if you're upset as a Genshin player, then you should be more upset that you play that game in the first place.
True.
Shots fired. I just randomly threw that out. Genshin players catching strays.
Now they have the Italian flag backstage.
Yeah, for Tifa.
Bro, this is war breaking, my version.
You know, Soul Verde is very heavily inspired by Italy and Spain, so it would make sense.
That does make sense.
I think that's just clothes. That's not the Italian flag. I think that's just 3 dresses in a row.
It is, but also it looks like the Italian flag.
Whoever
New-
fucking them did this on purpose.
Hold on, new headcanon that the Soul Verde flag is just the Italy flag with the the emblem from the Spain flag in the middle.
This is clearly propaganda.
That was hilarious. I was a
Anyways.
kid in high school.
So, wow, I actually need a longer loop of this. Whatever. So you arrive at the theater with flyer in hand, inquiring what does the job entail. they need extra muscles. You will not be acting good. Also, that would be silly since it's like you're basically glorified stagehands.
Oh,
Oh yeah.
The positions available are technical, prop master, and background setup. And there's some,
Right.
or they can expand some more if you want.
Right now, I will immediately swoop in on technical.
Okay.
what are the other positions?
Prop master and background actor.
Salem, do you have a preference here?
I'll be prop master.
All right, background then.
Okay. Okay. So. Wow. Briggs and Amelia, they arrive in the theater through normal means. Briggs seems to be pretty enticed by Amelia's offer, so she's gonna cover for today. The 100 zenit needed for entry for both of you. She left both of her.
I was going to ask if they had any box seats.
Oh yeah, you can ask for box seats. They're 500 though.
Oh, I will gladly cover the difference.
Odd.
Just waste half my money on nothing. Love to do it.
You know what? Spending? Who needs that?
Amelia's really trying to continue the family line here. Or Amelia?
Yeah.
Amelia. Thank
Amelia. Amelia is the mom. Also,
You. I can't see the whole party, so I can't like see the
Yeah.
names properly. Amelia there. I
if
see it
you
in the
click
corner.
on the actors, you should see a party thing that lets you see everyone in the party.
I only
I think
see two
everyone
people.
should.
I see every pony.
Everyone should be able to see the party symbol. Yes.
Mhm.
I see the symbol, but I can't expand it.
Really?
Yeah.
Wild.
So do you see a little hood?
Oh, overview. Here we go. I got it.
Okay.
You have to go to overview.
Okay. Should be able to see, right? Yes.
Yeah.
All right, so you spring for the box seats. At the box seats, you can see it's not entirely private, but they only have one box seat. When you enter, you see an older woman who is dressed to the nines in kind of a excessively gaudy outfit. And when approach, Briggs is like, "Oh, sorry, Mayor, didn't know you were here." She gives you the older woman gives you, both of you a up and down. It's like, and then like a dismissive sigh, and then doesn't even bother responding.
She's giving me an up and or the up and down. I will curtsy for.
Okay.
then-
It's like, that's Mayor Summerlid. She's been mayor for she's been our mayor for the last 10 years. It's only thanks to her that our city that the city is prospering, Briggs says in a very obvious flattering voice. Yes,
Interesting. I'm glad to hear it.
I'm not here to be campaigned to today. I'm just here to enjoy the show. Okay. And on that, the show will start. It is a tragedy play that involves a princess running away from a kingdom to her lover from the rival kingdom. You vaguely feel like you've heard this one before. First up will be the. Give me a technical roll, Leche.
Okay. Will that be like insight and dexterity, maybe?
Yes. Your job is to control the lights. You have control over the lights right now, and also the curtain opening and closing.
Okay. What's the difficulty?
Since you're new at this one, give it a normal. Normally, the controls is not the issue, but it's the timing that you're not. You're kind of like thrown into the fray. Ooh. Failure,
Okay.
but I'll give you an option.
What's the option?
You can take the failure, and in return, the performance is slightly sloppier than normal. You take a pay cut, but you are
Damn.
still employed.
I'll take that.
Okay. All right, pay cut for you.
You can also spend Fabula points to reroll one or both dice if you are so inclined. And you have a trait that would apply.
Yes, you can invoke a trait for a Fabula point.
How much is the pay cut?
You're normally getting paid 200. That's significant enough that you'll be down to 150.
No, I'll just take it.
Okay. Okay. As the play continues, the princess has ran away. There's a group of soldiers that are chasing her. You learn the story of the captain of the soldier group. On the word captain, you kind of see instinctively that Briggs kind of perks up at that, and she watches the captain character a little more. All right, prop master, Rika, give me a roll.
Wait,
Prop
no,
master.
I thought Rika was the background actor.
Oh wait,
Yeah,
Alright.
that's Salem is the prop master.
Salem, prop master.
Ah,
Give me dexterity and insight.
No.
Yeah.
Those are some of my bad stats. Okay. Dexterity, insight, normal. Gotcha.
Dexterity, insight, normal.
oh,
Ooh, you
Nice.
pass. That's actually a crit, isn't it? Yeah, that's
Yes.
oh, because of 5/5.
yeah. Let me read up real quick on what crits do again.
They give us an opportunity, which lets us have something happen in like a story context,
Okay, opportunity.
and we can save them for later.
Do you want to spend that opportunity now, or or save it? You can save opportunities, really?
Yeah, I think you still have to spend them in the same scene, but you can keep
Yeah.
them if
Okay.
there's not anything you want to spend it on immediately.
Pick an option. Okay, you actually have an option of opportunities. I will post it in chat for people or for you to see, and I will also throw it on the Discord or on stream for others to see. Oh, I actually can't.
Damn, alright.
It's advantage, affliction, bonding, faux pas, favor, information, lost item, progress, plot twist, scan, or unmask. I will say right now, unmask, or the only ones available for you will be advantage or information or faux pas.
Did you explain those?
Or bonding. Okay, so advantage, you can either get in a +4 on yours or an ally's next roll. Bonding, you can create a bond towards someone. Actually, no, I'll take that away. That's not. Well, maybe. I'll allow it if you want bonding. Faux pas. Select the creature present on the scene. They'll make a compromising statement chosen by the person who controls them. Or favor, you earn someone's support. Or information, you spot a useful clue or detail.
I'll do advantage, please.
Okay, and gain advantage. So you successfully handle the soldier's props. However, you notice that one soldier's in particular's gun seems a lot more detailed than it should be, or heavier than it should be. It looks like the other guns, but it stands out to you when you pick it up.
Is this like a? I keep forgetting my words. It's is this like a blunderbuss or is this like a Garen?
Rifle.
Rifle. Gotcha.
Yeah.
I'm curious about it, and I check the chamber.
You notice that's fully loaded. Yep. One of the other stagehands notice you looking at the gun particularly and starts running towards you in the back, like aggressively.
I grab the rifle and I hit him in the face with the stock of the gun.
All right.
That's really suspicious.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's I got scared.
Okay. Let me think this through. Hit him with the stock. You realize that you have a dex and might of 6, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, give me a dex and might.
Good thing they grabbed that +4, huh?
Yeah.
Maybe?
I might make a suggestion as another player. You perhaps should not do this.
Oh, what did you say?
Here.
Can I change
I
my
said,
action?
I may make a suggestion as another player. You
Yes.
perhaps should not do this.
Okay. How about I
I'm
like?
Not saying you can't.
I'm fine with
Might be
it.
a bad idea.
I'm fine with this being locked in because it's really
Okay.
funny.
Let me think.
Yeah.
Do I really want to roll my worst stats? Let me think.
Remember, you have other options such as calling for help, exposing the guy, etc., etc. You don't have to go for violence just yet.
Okay, I look at him. I say,
You could even just see what he's doing.
he's running at me. Obviously, that's what I told him. What time do I have to react? Can I use study?
You can study him. He's you have to roll for a study. I'll just give you like quick information what you know from just looking at him. Big guy, lots of scars. Normally not someone that you see in working as a stagehand.
Yep.
I'm thinking. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. Take your time.
Can Can I use my magic to make hands come out of the ground, zombie hands come out the ground and grab his legs?
Sure.
Okay. I want to do that.
Okay. If that's the case, I think this is gonna get into a battle.
No.
Oh.
How far is Rhea and I from all this?
Rihanna is up here in the balcony. And
Yeah, how far is Fleur away from us?
Floor, you're right
okay.
back here. Or you're like in the back or right behind the stage.
So not like right there.
No.
Okay.
It's in the.
Oh no,
box
you're right
seats
there.
are,
You're
like,
right
up in
next
here
to
somewhere.
like the three of you are in the backstage because you're all stagehands, and then you just in a split second you see a guy trying to rush down Seon.
Sound.
Is what happens.
Okay. So I'm assuming we don't have a. How do you say? We don't really have like the room to just kind of react. We're not close enough to just like react here.
No.
Bye.
All right. In that case, let me pull up some enemies real quick.
Emily.
Enema.
Shout out, I guess.
I have not like played around with the compendium too much, so this will be interesting.
I'm gonna check my work schedule, see if I got tomorrow off. Refresh, please. No, I don't want to. Okay. Dumb. Aw.
Okay. This will be a little janky, but I think we're good.
You're a little janky.
A quick initiative roll.
That was real rude.
How do you do initiative again? Initiative 8.
Oh, support initiative check? Do I click that?
No, roll initiative.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, did I do it?
Yeah, how does this work? Not group, right? Oh, wait.
No, they got it. They got initiative. So,
Oh.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Let me
Whoa.
swap this over to battle music.
Jarvis fun battle tunes.
Wait, wrong one.
All right. So, wait. How do I add you guys to? Okay. So at the start is only the two of you in the back. Each next turn, Leche and Rika can join in. So round one, the guy rushes at you with his fist, trying to. Hold on. How do I do this?
Damn, this is fire actually.
What are our goals with this combat?
Goals of this
What is our
combat.
side's win condition and what is their side's win condition?
Goals of this combat is your lose condition. You all knocked out. Their win condition. They want to knock you out. Actually, hold on. I should have grabbed an arrow guy. Sorry.
Is Salem still holding the gun?
Yes.
I'm gonna have to use the inventory spot for what do you call it? Point.
When the combat starts, you can declare what items you have equipped. So you can have the gun in your possession, but not have it equipped.
Oh, that's pretty good. I choose that, and then I quit my staff.
Wait, no, this guy's too strong. He'll kill you before. Yeah.
Damn. One shot?
Oh, it's Seth Roth.
Yeah, him.
I can
Okay.
take him.
All right, so swordsman will go first. Okay, there we go.
Oh, is that like the battle interface? Oh.
Sorry, I'm just reading through his stuff real quick.
All good, all good, all good. Take your time.
Versus defense. How do I do this? No actors like that. I'm able to apply effect. How do you target someone with the attack?
Usually in Foundry, you click somebody and then hit T, and that's
there we go.
targeting them.
Okay, yeah, so the brute attacks you with his sword. Is that a hit?
It does say hit?
7 versus defense. Your defense is
Vampy, what
7.
is your-
Exactly.
Oh. Yep.
Okay. Alright, and that is his turn. Vampy, your turn.
Oh, this interface is so cute. I click this. Did I just target myself?
I think you just targeted yourself.
Can you re-roll that? Can you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, just press T on the guy and then do the thing.
Press what on the guy?
Highlight
T?
him, press T. Yeah.
Strange. Okay.
Yeah, that's loud. Hold on, I got interface.
Or zap.
Those are such good animations.
It was pretty good.
That rules.
20 HP.
Ow. Ow.
So
He
that would
recoils,
be-
unaware that you are a mage, but the loud flash and bang draws everyone's attention.
Oh,
Next round. So, all right. What's everyone doing? Leche and Rika, you can both join the fight now if you want, or you can observe the
Yeah.
situation. Winter, your character notices what's going on. The mayor is confused while Briggs is also jump out of her seat, like trying to push the mayor down.
Can I see that part of backstage from the box here?
You can see the flash and obviously the loud bang.
Okay. So if you don't mind me narrating what I'm going to do before
No,
the
go ahead.
turn,
Yes.
I'm going to turn around. I'm going to jump up, kind of look backstage, turn around, and give a little curtsy. Lady Mayor, it was lovely to meet you. Biggs, I hope you have her covered. And once you're done here, if you could help evacuate the audience, I believe I am needed on stage. And then I'm going to hop the banister and ride a conveniently placed piece of molding down to the ground.
Okay.
I thought you was gonna like zip line.
That is a bit of a dangerous option, but
Don't worry about it.
give me a dex and might.
All right, let me get my character sheet again. Let's see. Attribute check. Might and dex. What's the difficulty? Or is this
Oh, cool. I'll give you
roll
an
and see
easy.
how it goes? All right.
Oh,
Apply opportunity. What do you want?
Okay. Hang on. Okay, so that doesn't work. Let me look at the opportunities real quick.
At the same time, you see more of the stage hands that, on second thought, look awfully big for stage hands.
no.
Jump into the fray as well. But you have, since you're coming down on them, I will give you an opportunity to do whatever.
Sick. I would like the opportunity favor.
Mm-hmm.
Because I am swiftly acting in the mayor's defense.
Okay. The mayor will remember this.
You'll love to see it.
The
All right, I'm just going to join the initiative and not actually go yet.
Okay.
I want
It's
to see what everyone
the
else is
thing from
doing.
what do you call it? It's that thing from the Telltale games. Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Will remember this.
Hmm.
Alright, let me drop
my
you all
roommate
in.
would know- or my roommate would like to know how much longer we expect this to go.
We can finish up after this fight, or I mean, the plan was originally to stop in an hour.
All right. Well, we will let her know probably about an hour.
Okay.
okay. So what happens after?
Obviously, it's fine if we go a little over.
Yeah.
You rotate people.
Oh, it just auto does that. You can turn that off. It's somewhere in the settings.
Okay, I'll figure that out later.
Oh, there are mouses.
It's when you move, like it orients the direction you're moving.
Yeah, it has facing.
Okay. All right. So, and to combat. Okay.
What?
So one of the stage hands, he immediately attacks because that is part of his thing. Free HR 0 attack against one of your enemies. What does that mean? Do I still have to roll for it?
So you still roll, but you don't include the high roll in the damage.
Okay. Where's the random targeting thing? I know I have a random targeting. how do I use random target?
I couldn't tell you.
You could just like roll a die D whatever for which target, whatever, however many targets there are.
A D4.
Yeah. I mean, we still have to like enter the scene still, right? Or
Right. Yeah. How are you two entering the scene? Just run up.
Leche, do you want to go in first, or do I go in first?
I can go in first. So like, as soon as Ryan like notices the flash and the obvious sounds of magic being cast, they just like give the technical control panel like a little pat. It says "Be right back," and just rushes in, gun drawn.
I'm making a suggestion for something cool you can do with the control panel.
Yeah, you are on the control panel.
Whoa.
Yeah, go for it.
There is an action called Hinder,
Mhm.
which is where you roll against an opponent and can give them statuses.
Nice.
I can very easily see you shining some real bright lights on something.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll do that before you step away.
Okay. Who are you targeting first?
Um,
I'll give it as a free action since you were on the controls earlier and not fired.
I'll
Very
target
important.
like the stagehand that was there first.
Okay. All right. A roll for hinder.
What difficulty?
How does that work?
I believe it was just generally difficulty 10.
Yep.
Okay.
Since you're using the mechanicals, yeah. Okay, success. What do you want to inflict? Dazed, shaken, slow, or weak?
Which of their attributes do you want to reduce?
Just looking right now. So stages usually have like those random sandbags for like the curtains and stuff, right?
Right.
Yeah?
So Ryan and I is going to just drop a sandbag on this guy and weaken him.
Okay.
Jesus.
All right. He's been weakened. All right. So one of the drifter has an Alpha Strike command, so he will go ahead and do that.
It appears
Yeah.
Rhinai has also been given weak.
I don't know.
Ow. Let me take that off. Oops. Okay. We'll go ahead and do an Alpha Strike.
Ow.
It's a miss.
Wait, why am I being shot by your gun? I'm not even there.
I don't know. It didn't click anything.
Oh, well, you're all in the scene now, by the way, unless you don't want to be.
Oh. Alright. Yippee.
Okay. So the Alpha Strike missed. Okay. Let's see, what do we want? The Vanguard will start charging.
Okay.
Okay.
Do you mind if I go first in our order?
Yeah, go for it.
All right. I will use my ability Queen's Gambit, which allows me to perform a free attack with my weapon, creating your high roll as 0 when calculating damage. So I hit this guy.
Okay.
And then I would like to use, because this is what Queen's Gambit allows me to do, I would then like to use the skill. Is it Charging Cavalry? Which I'm going to use an action to spend 10 mind points and choose one ally that can hear me. They may perform a free attack with a weapon they have equipped. I would like that to be Floor Salvador.
Oh,
All right, Floor. Take your free action.
actually, I just realized something because I didn't realize that I was being thrown into the scene. With the Alpha Strike thing earlier, what was that? And what kind
It
of
was
attack was
an
that?
innate ability from the Drifter. When he joins the combat, he gets a free attack.
What kind of attack? Is it a melee attack?
No, that was a range attack.
Hi. Never mind. Okay, so what am I charging cavalry?
So you get to make a free attack against anyone with a +1 bonus, and treating the high roll as 0 for damage.
Yippee!
That also reminds me.
It's a free attack.
Yep.
Okay.
Why did that apply to me?
I don't know.
You're all targeted on the enemy.
I guess I'll target
I
this
have
dude.
the enemy targeted!
I don't know.
Don't worry about it. It doesn't matter.
How do I just attack?
Target an enemy and then press the attack button at the top left.
Oh, there's a UI here. Okay, it was
Yes.
Yippee!
Okay, hit.
That's a hit.
With a high roll of 0, so that would be just the weapon damage, which is. Oops. Sorry. Ignore that. 8 damage. Okay.
Do I do anything to like the damage? To apply the damage
Nope,
here?
I
or,
got it.
like,
I think there's no HR0 apply damage, which is weird. Okay.
Yeah. And then,
You wanna make
after
it a
I get to...
fumble?
What?
Sorry, what?
Would it not make it a fumble if there's a 0 in it?
No, it treats the damage as 0.
I see. Okay.
It treats the extra damage as 0. And then I am going to let Salem take their turn immediately instead of the enemy going, using the last of my 3 abilities,
Okay.
So was this for other
Which
miscenter?
is-
Sorry.
Crushing Chariot.
All right, Salem. Go ahead.
This guy in the middle have the least health?
You don't know.
I don't know. Okay, great. Let's see. I'm just gonna. What was that?
It's saying that you're now key character.
Oh, right. Gotcha. I'm gonna use Umbra again. Orpal Blast.
Okay. Apply damage. You now know he is below half. That's an MP.
That means he's in
Crisis.
crisis, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So, let me look at my. Sorry, I'm still learning this interface.
All right.
So-
That is. Yep.
So I have Beyond the Realms of Death, and if you see an enemy and they lose hit points, and they are in crisis and not undead, you get 1 grade point. Does that count?
Yes. Because he is not an undead, and you just saw him hit crisis.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. The swordsman flees, or is attempting to flee. he says, "Fuck this. No job's worth a life," and starts running away. The other two stay though. Do you want to track him, or do you want to keep attacking him, or what? He will escape starting of next round. Start of next round. All right, what does this guy do? Miss.
Yeah.
However,
Love to get missed. Yep.
Yes, faint.
Oh, neat.
That's a hit.
Damn.
Apply damage with HR 0, so that would be 5 damage. Alright, that's his turn. Who's going on your side?
Some Floriani, right?
Yep.
Yeah, it can go. So, still gonna target the guy that's trying to flee.
Okay.
Going by the logic of he was the first here, so he might know the most out of everyone. So keeping him around would to question afterwards. So gonna still targeting. Just gonna shoot at him.
Okay. Apply damage. Give yourself that HP back. Yeah.
Did you shoot yourself?
Maybe.
It happens.
All right, he's knocked out.
Damn.
Wait. Okay.
There we go. Went him upside down. All right, that is, and then Rika, you're the only one who hasn't taken a turn.
So what are these two guys?
Vanguard and a Drifter.
Okay. What?
You
So
do
are we
note
just,
that
like,
this guy seems to be in charge. Or he's the one that has the most professional looking equipment.
What? Are we just like in the open theater proper at this point?
Yeah, the stage has been knocked over. Everyone can see your fight.
Oh, okay. Well,
It's all part of the show.
no point in not being surreptitious, I guess. Guy that looks like he's in charge. Okay. Laura's gonna pull out their lance, shield, and hit a fat spell. Wait, which one actually? So we get 3 actions per turn? Is that how that works?
No, one
Just
action
one.
per turn
No, oh, just one.
Mine chained together.
Oh, okay.
because of the ability. Yeah.
Yep. There's some other ways to make it happen, but largely you get 1 action per turn.
Okay. So, this guy in a range where I can hit him with a melee attack?
You can hit them with melee attack. They're all within melee range.
Okay. We are going to hit this. Oh. Which one? Alright, we're gonna cast this Soaring Strike here. Nora's gonna get some wind behind them and just kind of go sailing with the spear forward at this dude. I gotta spend the MP for it, and then we do a free attack. So I guess I just hit an attack.
Yep.
Whoa!
Alright. Apply damage plus the extra 5 damage.
Whoa! That's my attack for the turn.
Okay. Next round. How do I remove him from the move participant? Alright. Enemy's turns. The Vanguard, who was charging up last turn.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yep. Spinning Blast. Enemies physical. Wait, what?
Oh, probably the cost of the thing?
No. That's not what's supposed to be.
I did forget about the charging, yeah.
So it'll be 10 damage because this is presumably a fairly low low level.
So, you're going to vicious damage and load your firearm upon enemies. Enemies, physical, apply 10 physical damage on your selected tokens. Failure of a... Oh, I think everyone rolls that. Everyone rolls that, and whoever fails takes 10 damage.
Huh.
It's not he rolls, you all roll, yeah.
How did I make him roll? Alright, well...
Alright, Rika
hang
passes.
On.
It's Dex in. Dex in.
Yep. Dexterity, Insight... Difficulty 10.
Alright, Leche fails, takes 10 damage.
You said, Dex what?
Dex in. Wait, who rolled that failure just now?
I believe... Oh! It just says character, so that's me.
Yeah, I don't know why
Like,
you just say character.
Oh, that's because,
It's going to take 10 damage.
Yeah. Alright, Leche passes. Rika? Or did Rika already roll? Rika rolled, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Rika already.
Winter?
Yeah, I was character. I
Alright,
failed. I took 10 damage.
You said insight
I
willpower?
did apply to myself already.
Vampy.
if you click the description
I?
of Spinning Blast, if you click that where it says 10 thing, it'll roll it for you automatically.
Oh.
I'm sorry, so it's like, what was it? No,
Go,
Dex Insight.
go to the chat log,
chat log.
and you see where it says Spinning Blast from Vanguard.
Would it be on the text, like the chat box? That's all I see. I don't know how to open the chat log.
Alright, so you go to the very top option on the right-hand side for chat messages.
Oh, chat messages. Okay. And which one do I click?
And you scroll up a little bit to where it says Vanguard Spinning Blast. And you click the thing below Variable Physical.
The thing that has like the 10 in it. That's the skill check. If you click that, it should automatically roll it for you.
You said spinning. Who did spinning blast?
Vanguard? It's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 messages from the bottom.
I just added it.
You added it.
No, I clicked the thing again on the
it's-
chat.
Oh,
It's right there at the bottom.
Oh, at the bottom.
So click on where it says, yeah, at the bottom of the chat.
Oh, click the 10.
yeah.
Yeah, click the thing where it says failure of a check.
There you go. Well,
Well,
Okay, take 10 damage.
10 damage.
Okay, that is his turn.
ouch.
You guys go.
Oh, okay.
Which one of us wants to go first? I'm gonna hold back this turn so that I can heal if anyone needs it.
I think. How is our group looking health-wise or battered? Like, is anyone visibly doing pretty bad?
I got
None of us
people,
are below half.
Can we actually see our health?
dude.
Yeah, you should be able to see everyone's
Yeah,
health.
I opened the party menu and
party.
doing it that way.
Oh, you can actually see the stats.
I just
Oh,
haven't shrunk all the way down on the left side.
Oh, how long did this? Oh, I see. Okay. I think what we're going to do here. Flora will take the first turn here, actually. And what Flora's gonna do is just prep for the next turn and
Here, I configure it so that you can see everyone's health.
Oh, that's so good. Oh, I can only see.
Hold on, that's because I haven't finished updating it.
Oh, okay. Huh.
It made a funny ass noise when you did elemental weapon.
I believe you get to do a free attack as part of elemental weapon too.
Yeah. Flora is still. Yep. We're gonna say Flora dodged the spinning blast because they're still over here on this dude. And
What
spend
element
something.
did you pick?
I don't know how to pick it, but we're gonna pick the fire. Oh, there we go. Fire. And we're gonna take this free attack on is this Drifter? No, yeah, this is Drifter, right? Yeah, we're gonna take
Yep,
this free
that's
attack
Drifter.
on Drifter. Well, I think that's a. We're gonna.
Yeah, that's a
And
miss.
reroll one or both of those dice if you spend a Fabula point.
I wanna re-roll it. This is like
And if we
probably the
spend
worst.
4 Fabula points in a session, we get
could-
extra XP.
Really?
Where?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
true.
How do I? Where are they stored? Are they on my character sheet or in the party screen?
I spent it from the little menu on the bottom left where it says
It's
I
on
have 2.
your. It's on your character sheet. You see it? At the top right, right below your IP.
Right below your IP. Oh, I see. Oh, we have 3 of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will lower it by 1 to re-roll the might. I guess I'll just hit an attribute check there. No. I'm just gonna roll a d10.
Yep.
1d10.
I will apply
No,
it.
sorry. My might is 8 actually. Give me. That's a 9, or 3
No.
plus 6.
Still a miss.
You know what? I did my best.
Also,
Can I give them in my advantage?
you can actually, yes.
I do that.
Okay, then that's a hit.
Oh.
So that was a 9 plus 8. That's a 17.
Advantage plus 8?
Another
great
point for me.
Woohoo!
Were they weaker resistant to the fire?
No. No resolve from fire.
What is that exclamation mark? Well,
He's in crisis. It means that he's below half.
oh, okay. Yeah, that's well. I only get one attack, so
Yep. Um. All right. We'll use silencing shot with the pistola.
who's it targeting?
Vampy.
You know what we're gonna do? Sorry, we're gonna interject here.
Okay.
We're gonna hit protect here. So Floor is going to still on this dude, just kind of jump in the way of this gun
Mm-hmm.
and take the hit.
Piccolo jumping in front of Gohan.
Okay. In that case, you are silenced and take the damage.
What's Rika's defense?
You may take your place. You may declare you still if the dangers are. Oh, 13. So that won't actually hit.
Oh.
Never mind. Undo
Sick.
that.
Sick. Blocking it with my shield. And I cannot protect until the next round.
Okay. That's his turn. All right. Who's on your side? Guys, go.
I'll go first. No one else wants to.
Sounds good.
These fellers have any what do you call them? Effects on them? Status effects?
Besides the guy who has crisis, actually, you get a grave point now, that don't you?
Yeah, I got 2,
Okay.
but I can't have any more.
Yep.
I'm about to I'm using For Whom the Bell Tolls to enhance Umbra to hit both of them, and they're both gonna get shaken.
Okay.
Me when I grab my cat and start shaking. Oh,
Neat.
Wait. Whoops. Okay. There we go. And then
Yeah, that should.
did the other guy also take it versus magic defense?
I hit both of them. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay. And then spend a MP for that. All right. That's your action. Winter or Lech?
Yeah, sure. Ryan and I will take the opportunity of saying that the drifter is low and shoot at him.
Dodge.
aw.
Yeah, I'm gonna spend a Fabula point on that then.
Oh shit.
And it's just one die that gets rerolled.
Yes.
One or both.
One or both. You probably want both.
Yeah, do both.
Probably, yeah.
That is exactly the same.
I thought the one was a 7. I almost got hyped.
You love to see it.
You can keep going if you really want to. If you want
Yeah,
to
you
see
got-
more Fabula points.
You got me, bud.
We love gambling.
No gambling.
You only lose money in gambling if you quit.
Let it ride. Would have been so funny.
It would have been.
Here comes Chet saying 6-7 again.
6-7. 6-7.
God, he really rolled a
Every
6-7.
That's the
All
second
right.
one of the stash.
I forgot to give this guy shaken, by the way. There we go. That is your turn. So.
Oh, did he just turn crit or crisis?
No, this guy's
dead.
this guy's guy.
He can
This
get
guy's
it
out.
out in crisis, which
Do I get a grit?
I
Do I
believe
get a
lets
G?
you have it.
Sorry. I get a
This
GP
guy's out.
every time then.
Aren't you full up on GP?
I use my GP to inflict shaken.
Oh, then yes, you get that back. No. He was already in crisis earlier, so I don't think you get another one.
Yeah, because
You get it every time someone takes damage while they're in crisis.
Oh, okay.
really? That's wild.
It's pretty good.
They don't have any more turns this turn, right?
Nope.
All right. Then I'm gonna go ahead and take my turn. I'll use Queen's Gambit,
Damn, that was a hit.
and hit for however many damage. And then I would like to... is it? I would like to heal Vampy for 5 plus kill, 10 hit points.
Okay. Vampy goes back to full.
Whoa.
And then my turn is over.
Okay. Start of round 4. This guy surrenders.
Understandable.
Understandable.
All right.
So let's round
And
these dudes up.
That's it for the first battle. Do we want to call it here, or do we want to get to a little bit of role playing afterwards?
Keep going.
Does anyone have time constraints?
I'm good for another half an hour.
Yeah,
I've got
I'd be good for.
10.
I'm good to go for another 30 minutes if I want to.
Okay. In that
We can
case,
see, we can see what these rapscallions were plotting.
Rapscallions.
so you during this, obviously the crowd has been like confused whether or not this was a part of the show, or if they should be concerned. So now that you have subdued the last 3 soldiers, this would be the point in the story where there was a battle between the pursuer soldiers and the princess's personal guards. You can ad-lib the scene, or how do you want to handle the aftermath?
Oh, princess, we have defeated your rivals.
People are somewhat confused, but you see Briggs shout, "Woo! Good job!" and start clapping from the box, and everyone else starts clapping along. And you can hear some murmurs of, "Wow, they went all out for the special effects this show."
Going to encourage the princess's actress back on stage.
Yeah. The other actors are a little concerned looking, but as you drag the guys off stage,
I will whisper to the actors, "Look, we just don't want them to panic.
Yeah.
It's all good."
So as you drag the guys off, the play resumes, and you have you've tied up the 3 guys. They're all awake, all battered, and all glaring at you. What do you want to do?
I think Floor is just gonna start by noticing that they're awake and just look down at the fuck drifter guy that looks fancy, and just immediately ask him, like, you mentioned something about being hired or whatever.
Yeah.
Who hired you? What is your goal here?
He spits. I ain't talking. I ain't saying nothing.
You just did. say nothing.
I'm like closely scrutinizing them while everyone else is talking.
Floor is very deliberately going to say this petty comment. You just did say nothing.
Salem says, "Is it not say nothing a double negative? Are you gonna say something?"
My ally here has a point, sir. Would you like to correct that?
He glares but shuts up.
Walking over to the swordsman, would you like to tell us who hired you, or do you also insist on ain't saying nothing as well?
Oh man, I was hired by that guy. You want any information? Mess with him, not me. All I was supposed to do was shut the fuck up. Don't say anything.
So it's not don't say nothing now, it's don't say anything. I think you have to get your story straight. I think you two need to one of you needs to get talking. Floor just says very eloquently, trying to trip these two up.
Well, if I may, good line of questioning would be starting with the rifle that Salem picked up in the first place.
Salem, what did you do with that rifle, Salem?
Oh, I
Yeah,
have it. I was playing. I was hoping nobody remembered and I could sell it.
You know what? I'll give it to you. I'll give you a weapon.
I'm sorry, what?
I'll give you the gun.
Yay!
Rihanna knows guns, surely, as a gun wielder, yeah?
Yeah,
If it's better, I'll give it to him.
they know their way around a gun.
Surely. They would do good with questioning about a gun, yeah? Or Salem. Either one of you.
I don't think Salem can actually equip it because it's a martial weapon.
I give it to the shit, what's her name? I'm sorry, I'm still
So
learning.
what you would hang on. So what you would do to have it be a rifle is just make a pistol two-handed and add 4 damage.
Okay.
Pretty much, yeah.
Oops.
Oh no, the rifle misfired.
Get down, Mr.
Salem said
President.
Sorry.
Since this is a disguised rifle, I will say until fired for the first time, people cannot at a glance know it's a real weapon.
God.
Nice.
You know, I feel like we could really, this is really something to check off our list. You know, a gun.
Fleur, do you mind if I
That's
rifle
not
through
fire.
their pockets?
Rifling through their pockets.
Yeah, go ahead. So you go through their pockets. They have one of the guys has a pistol and a sword. The other guy has sword. You see notes saying target will be in the box office today. Take the shot. Blah blah blah.
Shot.
Take the shot.
Ah, they were targeting the mayor.
Oh, the mayor. Laura leans over.
I would like to study them if that's alright.
Okay.
Oh, that's an awful roll.
That's not good.
Is this a reroll?
I would like to spend a Fabula point to reroll.
Okay.
And I gotta open the study menu again.
I don't think any of you guys can use this martial weapon, can you? Or I think Leche can. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can.
I can use martial weapons.
Yeah.
Sharpshooter.
All
gets
right.
Can you
martial.
use martial range weapons? Because it's a martial range.
Oh wait, I can. use
I
martial
noticed
weapons.
nothing of any particular value.
Let me.
The only
Let me
thing you
do-
notice is that they, First, upon closer inspection, they are obviously more fit than a regular civilian. These are experienced fighters.
Huh.
Well, they're clearly some sort of professional soldier or mercenary or something. I don't know.
Okay. Looking at their clothing, is it, you know, look like any kind of certain style, like maybe from a particular nation, or maybe like a military garb of any kind?
Not that you notice.
The notes that they had, is there any like kind of signifier for who it's from, like a seal or emblem or initial or anything?
Give me an inspection of some kind.
Insight, maybe?
Sure.
That's usually... if you do actions study, that'll bring up that for you.
Okay. Study. Boom. 5.
Okay, besides normal stuff, you can't really discern anything. It's a note. It talks in vague sentences about naming anyone in particular. Yeah. Anyone else wants to take their hands at the note?
Floor says, "Hand me the note. Let me try. Let me hit this. Insight. Yeah.
You also notice nothing. One more person gets to inspect the note.
Wait. I'm re-rolling one of these. I'm re-rolling one of these. Fabula point. Let me re-roll
Really?
that,
They're both
that one.
6s.
I'm doing it. Imagine though. Imagine if I re-roll that one into something real good.
You know,
1d6.
Fabula points aren't automatically restored at the end of session, right?
Yeah, but it'd be really funny. Anyway,
Okay.
well, I used one.
for free at the start of a session.
Or the
You get one, not all 3, right?
No, that's fine. They're
fine.
there to be used.
Yeah.
Anyway, well,
Plenty of
okay.
ways to get Fabula points.
There's plenty of ways to get Fabula points. I'll give one more person a chance to inspect a note, or before. All right.
Right click
Did
is
you
what I click.
Also, what is supposed to happen at
So
4
if
Fabula
up in the
points?
top left, hover over action and then click study.
Okay. Action.
Also, what did you say happens at 4 Fabula points spent?
We get an extra experience point.
Oh.
Hey, that's a crit. Automatic success.
Serving.
Salem's the only one in our group that can read. Oh,
Oh, they can read, but you can sense trace amounts of magic on it, and not the type of a very particular kind of magic, not one that is normally done by a spellcaster.
Oh. I am perplexed. Oh.
Spellcaster.
I have no idea what this is.
What other kind of magic is there?
That's the big question, isn't it?
Theoretically infinite.
We
You would
do
like to
have an
perform a
opportunity.
ritual.
You can perform a ritual,
Mostly.
yes.
I would like to use ritualism to determine the nature of the magic that was cast on this paper.
Okay.
How do I do a ritual in this system?
I don't actually know how rituals work.
So, okay, hang on. Let me pull that up in the book because that'll be easier.
That chapter confused the hell out of me. And I reread it like 6 times.
So
Also, you gain an opportunity. What do you want from the opportunity?
It's whimsical ass
Hey,
music.
Vampy, what do you want?
what do you want for the opportunity that you just got? With Vampy?
Oh, I didn't know it was me. So what are? Let me check the Discord again for the.
You know, I can't help but notice that one of those opportunities is information.
Yeah.
I was reading
Yeah.
it backwards. Okay, I was getting there. I used information.
Okay.
It's dead in the middle.
Okay.
Yeah, well-
Information. Through your magical senses as a practiced sorcerer, you can recognize the same amount of magic that is on the paper as flowing around floor.
That is what?
Floor.
Oh,
Oh, here's an important question. Rika, do we know what your character's deal is? Or have we not learned
It's
that
up
yet?
to Rika to reveal.
Yeah,
That's what I asked Rika.
you would know. You would know because you helped me. And well,
Yeah.
how long have we been in a group? We would probably
One
if
boat
I
ride.
could-
A single
if I
boat
can-
ride.
one fortnight.
a single boat ride. I think Milia would know because Milia helped Floor escape, but I don't know about the others yet.
Correct.
If
Or
it's
up
been
to
a
you.
single boat ride. But like if we're all pretty set on the course of we're gonna save the world together, then yeah, you probably would know at that point. So I guess it depends on where we're at in this fucking journey. Let's just say yes to simplify it. You all know the
Oh,
deal.
yeah.
Let's just say
Okay.
we know the deal.
Okay.
Take it to floor, and I'm like, hey, have you seen this?
The note? Yeah,
No,
I failed my insight check on it earlier.
Oh yeah, you can't read. You can't read anything without a map on it. No,
Sorry.
this magic smells like you.
Smells like me.
Literally. I mean, I don't know how it smelled you.
Sniffer.
Shit, you want them tin cans too?
Sorry, that's a slip. No, I'm just kidding. Lower has no concept of slurs. I will say, Floor is not very perceptive. The constructs are not very perceptive in terms of like complex magic. So asking Floor to identify it would be like difficult, but yeah, this guy saying one of those tin cans too would definitely be like, Floor would be like, 2? What do you mean 2?
Fuck.
Have you seen someone like me? And Floor just kind of looks around and makes sure there's no one looking and takes off one of their gloves and shows a bunch of mechanical joints on their fingers and hands to the guy that said that.
Oh, hell. This job's way more complicated than I thought. I ain't signed up to fight against. Or hold on. I ain't signed up to do all this complex political ass shit.
Well, we can probably take this trouble off your hands if you just tell us who hired you for this.
He opens his mouth to speak, but just then the mayor with her guards walk in.
The glove's going back on.
Well now, you are glorious, are fabulous heroes tonight? Asked the mayor.
This is
We're
our
pretty-
pleasure, Lady Mayor.
We're pretty ultimate.
Say that again?
Nothing. Don't worry about it. I'm sorry. Go, continue.
Well,
Winter was trying to raise up the mayor.
I know. I
Yeah,
was
it
making
was
that
unfortunate.
Fantastic Four joke.
Say no.
Yeah.
Mayor Sumiller, I suppose you are responsible for saving my life today?
Oh. Floor just kind of looks around like aloof. I thought that was just part of the show. Very serious look on their face.
Mayor gives you a one up down, says, funny routine. Alright, boys, take him away. I'll arrange a gift for you later.
Yippee!
Any response to that?
I'm just watching.
I will thank her for the gift and curtsy again.
Alright. Vampy, your response?
I nod.
Leche?
Yeah, also just kind of nod
Okay.
with a little smile.
And Rika?
Huh?
Any response to the mayor's reward and also taking away the guys?
What did you call me? I was confused by what you called me for a second.
Rika?
It sounded like you called it like a Litica or something. I think Floor is just gonna say like, wait, but do you have any idea who might have hired these guys?
One moment. Quick, BRB. Sorry.
Oh, yep.
Ring, ring. Phone call, phone call.
That is
Meanwhile-
what they're there for.
Hello.
Meanwhile,
I
some
am
people
back.
Get one back. You just say, I'm going to fail this roll.
yeah.
Okay. So you were asking if they will find out who hired the guys. The mayor says, "Oh, don't worry. My men have ways to take care of that."
I asked I quietly asked my group, should I give the nod to the mayor? Should I do that?
Okay.
Maybe. What do y'all think?
Yeah. That's evidence, right?
Yeah, but lady, did you say it was all of them that had a note, or was it just one note?
Just one note.
Oh, okay.
Yay.
I guess we can hand it over.
Okay.
I walk over to the mayor and hand it to her. I like bow over and reach out my hands with the note.
Thank you for the evidence.
One of them had this note on them.
Well, thank you. I'll make sure our guard will take care of it. If there's anything else, there's nothing else. I am a very busy woman, and I have to go make a statement about this kerfuffle today.
Kerfuffle.
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 Kerfuffle. Kerfuffle.
Just out of curiosity, where will they be staying? Because we have our own questions for these men as
No,
well.
you don't need to worry your pretty little head about that. Let the guards do their job.
Floor just kind of looks blankly like, what did she mean by that? Do you mean like the guards? I can tell the guards my questions?
Sure. They'll pass
Okay.
it along.
Realizing I should not ask confidential questions to a guard, actually.
Okay?
Yeah.
uh, looking at the rest of the group for help, like, do we just let this go?
You think we're still getting paid for the stage work?
I mean, the show went on. The show was a success, so no reason not to be paid.
Okay.
Is it best to just let this go for now and see if we can catch back on to this later?
Almost certainly.
I mean, we're already,
We can find a jail cell.
we know what kind of magic was attached.
Okay. Flora
Okay.
just turns to the mayor. Don't worry about it. Thank you, Miss Mayor Lady.
All right, then. I think that's a good place to end the scene and end it for today. You all get for a bonus from the job plus the mayor's reward. Each of you all get y'all get 500 Zenith
Each?
Nice.
each.
Damn. Then do we subtract some for the inn today?
No, I already did that.
Oh, right, you're covering it. Sugar mama.
Sugar mama.
All right, I'm almost back up to my starting money.
Hey, I need to ask something about Milia.
Uh-huh.
You remember how you're like, yeah, she's the daughter of the queen and the demon queen, but nobody knows that the demon queen is one of her parents?
What's not that nobody knows?
Okay,
The
but
dad
like,
knows.
Doesn't know.
did the horns tip her off at all? Like the big demon horns and the
I mean,
the
that's
black
just normal
splatter
for
and
her
everything?
race.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah.
She does look a lot like the Demon Queen when she was young. She also looks a lot like her own mother, which is
Yeah,
Lady
normal.
Amelia Amaranth.
Oh, I love citrus.
Okay, so how many XP or Fabula Ultima points were spent?
We have spent
Oh, it tracks it in
4
the party
Fabula points.
screen.
Okay, so you all
Oh,
gain
does it?
60 XP automatically.
Yay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yippee!
Do I want to play with the optional rules? What's the MVP and embodiment thing again?
I wouldn't play with that because it can lead to weird situations where one
Okay.
person gets much more powerful than the others very quickly.
Okay, don't deal with that then. Okay, y'all get 6. Y'all get 6. Plus some Zenit. Sounds good.
6 XP. Woohoo!
Okay, so I think that's a good place to stop for tonight. Let's go to just chatting.
So, according to my sheet, that means we now have 11 experience.
Oh yeah, y'all
Wait,
get a
where did we
level.
get the other
Does
5?
mean, which does mean we'll level up. I don't know, it was already there. I assume Lydia
You
did this
start
on
with 5
purpose.
XP?
Maybe.
Wait, yeah,
I
why
don't
did we
think
have
so.
Why did we have 5 XP?
I think-
Maybe because we got together last week for
Yeah,
the second session
maybe.
0.
Okay, you should all only have 6. You should all only have 6.
Okay.
1 XP session, SMH my head.
6 XP. Yay.
Yay. Yay.
Yeah,
You got me.
Winter, your character's at level 6 right now.
Sure is. That should be 5. I should put 6 in experience and not the field next to experience.
Correct. Okay.
Don't forget to add your money too.
I did add my money back.
Yes. Okay, so that has been the first session of our journey. We started off with a bang, with some political intrigue, some assassination attempts, and raising up a guard lady. May or may not have performed a microaggression against a rat man.
I'm sorry. My
Well,
character
I
is
didn't have any
not
part in that.
fucking normal, okay?
I'm not scared of Master Splinter.
And we saved the mayor, so y'all in the good graces of the mayor and also of the local contingent of Svelvard guardsmen.
Yay.
Yay. What did y'all think for our first session?
I had a blast.
It was pretty
God.
It
fun.
was very enjoyable.
Yeah.
I had a lot of
Good,
fun, and I really enjoy that you have managed to improvise an entire theater scene.
As you do.
I think
'Cause I assume you did not plan for me to
No.
say, "Oh yeah, there's a theater. Let's go."
I did not.
I think there was probably some like how do you say?
I desperately Googled a theater map, and this is what I got.
You know what? It's good. It's good.
Jeez, you did a great job.
Fantastic. On the fly thinking.
Plus, I was listening to Final Fantasy music and, the flamenco scene. I kind of just ripped off the
Yep.
flamenco scene.
I love that song so much. It's
All right.
one of my favorite Final Fantasy songs.
It is a good song. All right. Anything have any thing they want to announce? Anyone have anything they want to announce?
Once again, if you want to see more of the games that I've been in, you can go to actualplay.roleplayingpublicradio.com and search for Lydia.
Okay. Plug that in the link in the chat.
Go get a link again.
Woohoo! As for me, I got the day wrong. I'm actually doing a charity stream tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. Eastern. Check that out.
6, 7.
What?
I said
6, 7.
Oh, 6, 7.
Oh, I'm doing a fucking charity stream on 6, 7. I'm leaving. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye. Vampy, Leche, anything y'all want to say?
Yes. To my browser jamming up.
Nah.
You should follow me on playing James Bond, the new one.
Hooray.
Should be
That game looks really good.
It's so good. It's like Uncharted plus Watch Dogs plus Splinter Cell Conviction.
I've never played any of those games.
They're all peak. even Watch Dogs.
All right. As for me, I will be. Oh, Leche, anything? Sorry.
No. I don't have
Okay.
anything.
As for me, I will be doing Resident Evil tomorrow plus anime on my Discord before stream. We're watching the second Thunderbolt movie if anyone is interested in that. All right, that's it. Let's find something to raid. Anyone have anyone in mind?
Hold on, my browser's being extremely slow. But I'll go last actually if anyone has any other suggestions. I do have a guy though.
Mimic
go
might
ahead
still be
and-
going.
Mimic is going, I see her.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see Mimic. Okay, who do you have in mind, Vampy?
Winter Soul _ YK, and then Winter Soul is a compound word.
Post that in Discord or chat.
I'm gonna post it in game chat.
Okay.
Oopsies, can't type. K fingers.
Winter Soul YK. Let me make sure
Yeah,
that they're
he's
still
playing-
streaming.
Yeah, he's playing Store Fox 64.
Star Fox. Alright, I'll send y'all over to Winter Soul. Have a good night, everyone. I'll see y'all tomorrow for Resident Evil and on Rika's. Actually, that's a little too early for me. Support Rika's charity stream.
What do you
Bye.
mean? It's only 6 a.m. your time.
Too early for me.
Just wake up at 6 a.m.
Never. You'll never get me up at 6 a.m. on a Sunday.
Yeah, well, that's why I get. Never mind.
You just went
Alright,
before
Bye.
Sunday.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.